Oh, it took you for a little ride there. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another video. So, I am going to talk to you about wasting products today. Very expensive products, whether it be a gloss medium and varnish, a pouring medium, GAC 800, Floetrol. They're all expensive. And due to let's see. I don't want to say confusion, but people assume that you have to use the same amount of each product in everything you mix for that one pour that you're doing. So, for example, when you watch a video, the artist will either say 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. Or they will say they have a 2-to-1 ratio, which basically means the same thing. They used 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint. Or they will say they have a 80-20 mix, which means they use 80% Floetrol and 20% paint. So you watch a video and you hear that and you go to mix your colors. We'll use the easiest one, 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol. That's the terminology that a lot of people use. So you go to mix up your paints and you mix up your white paint, 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol. You mix up this one, 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol, etc., etc. You mix all of your paints like that, and then you do the water thing, and all is ready to go, right? Here's the thing. When it comes to products, you do not need to do that measurement on everything. You don't have to do it on any of it, but here is why we do it. So when it comes to white, black, or any other color you're going to be mixing up to do a base coat on your canvas, if you were to take this paint and use what I'm about to tell you that you can do, just a tablespoon of Floetrol in it, you would then have to thin it the rest of the way with water. You would have to use more paint because, as you know, the base coat is the color that we need the most of. So if you're not using a good brand of paint, this is just Hobby Lobby's brand, I would not consider it an excellent brand of paint. It's an okay brand of paint to use. It works fine. I have nothing against it, but it's not a very pigmented type of paint like something like one of these. Okay? So you would have to thin this down with a mass amount of water if you were to only use 25% or a tablespoon of Floetrol. Now, it would work for your pour, yes. But here's the kicker. Do you want to use more of this that's $15 a gallon? Or do you want to use more of this that's $9 for a tube? I go with the Floetrol because it works out to be cheaper. Now, when it comes to the water, like I said, you can use less Floetrol. You can use more paint, less Floetrol, and more water. But if you're not using a brand that is designed to take a lot of water, you can affect your painting. It can crack. It can fade over the years. What you're doing when you're over adding water is you're breaking down the binders in the paint. So for something that's not oh, this was $11 a tube. It's right there in front of my face. For something that's not designed to hold a lot of water, you have to replace that volume that you need with one of these products. Using something like a Liquitex pouring medium would be too expensive. So the next best thing is either the Floetrol or the glue and water recipe. Most companies, if you go on their website or if you go to Google and type in the search bar, water threshold for Master's Touch paint, you may be able to find on the internet what that threshold is. Is it 30%? Is it 50%? What is it? Golden, I know, does it. I have not checked out the other brands yet, but you should always just follow the rule of somewhere between 30 to 50% is an okay amount of water to use when thinning down a paint. Now, as I mentioned, if I don't want to use a lot of Floetrol or pouring medium to thin this out, this took me almost 70%. I tested it off screen. 70% water to get it down to where it needed to be for a Dutch pour. So all of that factors into your decision of what you're using, what brand paints you're going to use. Maybe I only have a little bit of Floetrol left and I need to reserve that for a special project and I want to use just water for my pour today. Those things matter. Something like a Decoart that's in a bottle is not going to take a lot of water before it starts to break down the binder. So if you're a water and paint person, I highly suggest you use better quality brands of paints because you're going to need them if you want your art to last a while, okay? So I want to show you today how I'm going to mix my white paint up for my Dutch pour. And then I have some really pretty new colors here from Atelier, which you can get on Blick. I have a link in the description. I want to mix these up with a very little amount of Floetrol. I want to mix up my white paint with the normal 2 parts that I usually use. I'll show all of it. I'll show you the measurements, all of that. And I want to show you another pour using just pouring medium to do the same thing. Okay. Now, keep this in mind. If you are a glue and water person, what I do with this is what you're going to do with your glue and water, because I will tell you right now, this right here is glue and water with something else added into it, but it behaves almost the same as glue and water. You may not get the cells using glue and water, but this product is almost like a thin Mod Podge, which is glue and water. So what I'm going to do is mix up 2 batches for you. I'm going to give you the exact measurements. Now, a couple of viewers said to me on my last video that they live in countries where they don't have teaspoons and tablespoons. The only thing I can tell you is if you go onto Google and look up, do a search, convert tablespoons to milliliters or whatever your measurement system is, it will do it for you. There's a calculator on Google that converts measurements. So it'll tell you exactly how many milliliters a half a teaspoon is. So you can do that if you're trying to follow along with this video. Okay? So I'm going to get my stuff out and we're going to jump in. Again, I have some beautiful colors. I have blue, black, indigo, green, black, forest green, and 24 karat gold. I'm going for a very deep, sexy kind of look in my Dutch pour today. For my white very important. We all know that everybody's having a hard time with Flow Acrylic from Artist Loft. I am going to attempt to alter this on camera with you, and we are going to see if my alterations stops the excessive lacing from happening. You're seeing with the new version of Artist Loft, the 2020 bottles, it says it right here, 2020, and then they have 2021. Those years of this formula, they must have changed something in it. So it's causing excessive lacing to where it's almost giving a pearl effect now versus the old way where you just got some pretty cells. So I'm going to attempt to alter this with you and see if it helps. And if not, the only thing I can tell you is just switch brands of white acrylic paint because they all work as a base coat. One last thing I want to mention, because I always get asked if you can use house paint for Dutch pour. Sure, if you can figure out a way to use it. House paint really isn't meant for acrylic pouring. It's used in the bloom technique because that's, the recipe that was made up for that specific technique. But before the bloom, nobody used house paint products for anything. Well, there may have been one or two artists that used it for a base coat, but typically old school acrylic pouring is done with acrylic paints, not house paints. So if you want to try this with house paint, you can. The measurements I give you today will not work. They're not the right measurements for house paint. And yeah, I only use it when I'm doing the bloom technique. I know a lot of people like to use it because it's less costly, but I don't know house paints, what their longevity is. I know my house was painted all white, and within, a couple of years, it was an off-white it changed from a bright white to an off-white. So I don't know what the long-term thing for the painting's life will look like 5 years down the road. But if there's a problem, there's going to be a lot of problems because everybody's using it now. So just remember, if you're new, house paint does not belong in acrylic pouring unless you're doing a bloom technique. Okay? It'll be a lot simpler to just use the acrylic paints. So like I said, I wanted to see if I could stop this excessive lacing happening by adding in another brand of paint to the Artist Loft. So I used a half a cup of the Artist Loft and a half a cup of the Master's Touch, mixed them together, which equaled 1 cup of paint. I then added 4 half cups of Floetrol, which equals 2 cups of Floetrol. And then for the water, I added in a 1/4 cup of water. Again, I was hoping that it would help with that excessive lacing. When it comes to the term parts, a part is any size. It could be a tablespoon, a teaspoon, whatever size you want it to be. Because I needed a lot of white paint, though, for the base of my canvas, I decided to use larger measurements. But you will see in a minute when I do my colors that I use smaller parts. Okay, so here is my white paint, okay? Now you'll notice I put in a total of 1 cup of paint. I split it between the two brands, 50% of the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic and 50% of the Master's Touch. And then I filled that cup up 4 times, which would equal 2 cups of Floetrol. Now, when I went to add my water, I didn't want to add in a full half a cup because it may have been too much, which I was correct. So I used a 1/4 cup measurement of water, and it's the perfect consistency. So if you have a paint like Artist Loft, or you have a paint like Master's Touch, or even Liquitex, anything in a tube that I may be forgetting, that's a good measurement for your Dutch pour. Now, if you're using something like Winsor Newton, that's a little bit thicker than these paints, you would need more water. But the measurements of the Floetrol and the paint would be the same. And that's to make a big old tub of it, okay? This tub will cover probably two 12 by 24 canvases for a flood coat. So now on to the colors, okay? Now, although I put in 2 cups of Floetrol into that paint, I'm not going to put 2 cups of Floetrol into my color. I'm not even going to put 1 cup of Floetrol into my color. I'm going to put a teaspoon, or no, we'll say a tablespoon of Floetrol. And the only reason why I go with a tablespoon is because this is a better quality paint. It's really pigmented and I don't want to waste it. So adding a little bit more Floetrol will give me more volume of this color, and I'll be able to save it for afterwards. Could you add more? Yes, but the whole point of this demonstration is to show you how you can get away with using less of those products. And just know, what I do with this paint, you can do with Liquitex brand tube paints, Amsterdam, all the tube paints, Arteza, all of those, Lucas, Creative Inspirations, all of that. It'll be the same because they're all that kind of soft, medium body textured paints. So I'm going to get out my cups and we're going to mix and measure these. So now, although I used all of that Floetrol in the white, I did a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm going to use less Floetrol in my colors because it's just not needed. So I used a teaspoon of paint, a half a teaspoon of Floetrol, and then I used the 1/4 teaspoon measurement for the water only because I didn't want to add too much water in all at once. I don't want to go overboard and have it be too thin. So I ended up using the 1/4 teaspoon measurement for that. But in the end, I ended up using 2 teaspoons worth of water for this Blue Black Indigo by Atelier. So for all the colors I mix, I'm going to use the same measurement as far as the paint and the Floetrol goes. 1 teaspoon of paint, half a teaspoon of Floetrol. The Green Black by Atelier ended up taking 2 teaspoons of water also. Up next, I am mixing soft body Liquitex paint in the color of muted turquoise. This color required only a half a teaspoon of water. So now on to the Decoart 24 karat gold. Again, all colors are mixed. 1 teaspoon paint, half a teaspoon of Floetrol. Let's see how much water this one takes. It took a half a teaspoon of water. So the amount of paint I made there was not a lot, okay? But it's just enough to do a 12 by 24 canvas. And actually, I'm going to be doing an 18 by 18 today. Just enough color. It equals out to about 2 tablespoons of paint, which is plenty of color for a Dutch pour for 18 by 18. And I didn't use 10 gallons of Floetrol. Here's the thing though, okay? For me, this doesn't make sense because I'm using such good quality paints that they're expensive. I could take that Floetrol and triple that cup, okay? And, you know, if you do the math, I don't know, there's 64 ounces to a gallon, I believe. Or is it 130, 128 ounces to a gallon, okay? Divide that by $15. How much money am I wasting to add another ounce of Floetrol in there? Not much. But when it does matter is when you're using things like expensive pouring mediums. So again, I can take that amount of paint and triple if I want right now, but my whole point of doing this is not everybody uses expensive paints like me, and I want to show you that you can do these art techniques without using a lot of these more expensive products. Use more of your paints. Maybe they're, Liquitex, something a little more affordable, Artist Loft brand than what I'm using. Okay, so I've got them all mixed up. I'm going to do a Dutch pour quick, and then I'm going to come back in. And actually, first I'm going to mix up my pouring medium colors for my second pour. We'll get all the mixing out of the way, okay? But to be honest with you, the pouring medium measurements are going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a teaspoon of paint, a half a teaspoon of pouring medium, and we'll start with a 1/4 teaspoon of water. And you also saw there that some of my paints took, again, different amounts of water because it depends on the brand and the color. So I'll mix those up really quick now, and then we'll do back-to-back Dutch pours. When it comes to using pouring mediums, you always want to give the pouring medium a chance to bond to the paint. So before you add your water in, thoroughly mix your pouring medium into your paint first, and then add the water. Now the pouring medium is a little more fluid than the Floetrol, so you may end up needing a little less water. For the Decoart, again, I needed a half a teaspoon of water only, but you'll see for this color, I needed a lot more than that. Well, it wasn't a lot more, but double. I ended up using a teaspoon worth of water in this color, which is called Flesh, by the way. Brand Atelier. This color here is called Muted Violet. Muted Violet and Muted Turquoise are two of my favorite all-time favorite colors from Liquitex. It's a soft body color, and I absolutely love them. This color only took a half a teaspoon of water. This color I'm using is called Red Black by Atelier. Again, you can get these Atelier brand paints through my Blick link in the description below. You're also going to notice for this color I didn't measure because I want to prove to you that it does not matter what the measurements are as far as the mediums are concerned. What matters is how much water you add to the paint. So I'm going to let you enjoy the process for a while here. I'm going to tell you this is a 16 by 16 gallery canvas. I start by pouring the white down, tilting it around, torching. I then lay the colors down, torch them again, and I'm going to let you watch the process now. I'm going to let you know one more thing. I knew as soon as I started pouring the colors down, now these are the Floetrol colors, that I was going to have a problem with the white. My test did not work with Master's Touch added to the Artist Loft. I could tell because the colors were doing the kind of hazing look around them. And I could tell right away it was going to start to lace up like crazy right after the first blow. But I'm going to let you watch anyway, and we'll see how this one turns out. I'm just going to switch over to using Blick brand white. They have a big jug. It's priced right, and it works fine for Dutch pours. So goodbye, Artist Loft. Just don't even mess around with it anymore, and just, you know, either do something like a Blick brand if you're trying to save some money, or use something like Artist Loft Level 2 from Michaels. Level 1 in the tubes, those work good too. They sell a soft body that works really good. I would just get rid of that flow acrylic. It's garbage now. Nobody's ever going to fix that, and that's that. But there's plenty of other white paints you can use that work perfectly fine.
I've been pushing away everybody I love. I don't know what to do. Need a sign from above. I just want to be somebody who knows how to behave, but I'm not even close. Won't you save, 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 save me? Won't you save, 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 save me? I am out here alone, 'cause there's nobody left. I need someone to talk to, get this pain on my chest. All the bad things I've done, and the people I've hurt. Wanna take that part of me and leave it in the dirt. Won't you save, 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 save me? Won't you save, 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 save me? Won't you save, 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 save me? Oh, save me, save, save me. Oh, I've been trapped in this darkness for far too long now. Wanna tear down the curtains, let the sun shine in. Oh, I've been seeking forgiveness, 'cause I know I was wrong. Oh, I'm running out of time, I have to stay strong.
So even though it laced like crazy, I still love it. And you know something? I'm going to just let it dry. We'll see what happens with it. I'm going to do a little mixed media on it and spice it up a little bit, because I just think it's not bad enough to scrape. There's really good qualities in this painting, and I've been able to take a dry painting and work magic on it by adding other things into it, such as hand painting or embellishing, things like that. So it's really got some beautiful areas and beautiful colors. And, you know, maybe somebody out there will love it. It's available if you do. And if not, then like I said, I will zhuzh it up a little bit. So up next, we're going to do another Dutch pour. but this time with the paints that are mixed with pouring medium. Now, one issue with using pouring medium in a Dutch pour is you're moving the paints so violently with the air that pouring mediums, when moved and blended together in such a way, they like to create their own little pearl effect. So that's also a challenge when using something like pouring medium when you're doing a Dutch pour. Also, that artist loft problem, that's only going to happen if you're doing something like a Dutch pour. If you use that artist loft to do a ring pour or anything else, it's going to work just fine. It's because of the Dutch pour and us blowing those paints and really churning them up that lacing is happening. But you can very easily use that artist loft to do ring pours and all your other pours. So this palette is actually really pretty. I didn't know how it was going to go together, but I actually like it a lot. And you can see the difference in the outcome. You just have some pretty cells. You have a little lacing there on the outer edge, but nothing like the other painting. Now for this one, I used only the Master's Touch white mixed with pouring medium. And you saw me mix the colors with pouring medium and water, just a little tiny bit. Didn't need a lot of it, and it worked beautifully. So let me say my goodbyes, and thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, please, when you're done watching, go back and click the thumbs up button. Make sure you comment below. All the links that you need to products and coupon codes will be located in the description below the video. If you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so. I'm trying to get to that 100,000 subscriber goal, and it's so close. I can almost taste it. It's so close. So I owe all of you a huge thank you for that. And until the next time, my friends, I love you all, and happy pouring.